Warning, you are about to enter the BGP suite. No thongs, no boy shorts, no thigh highs, no commandos are permissible. BGP, big girl panties only. So pull up to woman up. And no, please don't leave with your panties in a bunch.
The majority of divorces are initiated by women. And without even knowing both sides of the story, specifically the truth, we tend to lean towards the women's side. And everything leads towards the women's side, including the law. Long gone are the days where when we find out one of our friends or loved ones are getting a divorce that we don't ask or say, I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything that I can do? Is it anything that you guys can do to maybe make sure that you can stay together? Fast forward till today, and anytime a person is on social media and you hear that they're getting a divorce, the claws come out. And the women are like, get him, destroy him, get half. If he doesn't pay alimony, don't let him see his kids, and so on and so forth. And we forget all about humanity. We forget that these men are human too. We forget that men hurt. Men have despair. Men feel like they have failed. And oftentimes we forget that men want to throw in the towel. Men have sometimes wanted to say, I quit too. I want a divorce, but they don't do it. And they try to hang in there. As you can see, Adrianne is not with us today. October is Domestic Abuse Awareness Month, and Adrianne is an advocate for domestic abuse, so she's on a red flag tour. We wish her well. But today we're going to talk candidly because we have 3 handsome men in our BGP suite today, and we're going to talk about divorce and how it affects husbands and fathers. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Welcome to BGP, ladies and gentlemen. You know what time it is. We're going to get it cracking. Yeah. Divorce and how it affects the fathers. We're going to have these young men, y'all kind of
seasoned.
These seasoned gentlemen introduce themselves one by one. I want to ask you to state your name, how many years you were married, how many children you have, and what their genders are. Let's start with you, sir.
My name's Alan Strother. I was married 12 years, and we had 4 kids, 3 boys and 1 girl. My eldest son is 24, my daughter's 20, my next son is 18, and my youngest son is 13.
Mr. Briley.
My name is Kevin Briley. My daughter is 40 years old. I have one daughter, married 5 years.
And my name is Lane Cooper. I was married for 10 years, and as a result of that marriage, I had 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl.
Very good. So, I want to take us back. I want to take us back to high school. Because high school is where you start to develop your personality. You start to collect lifetime friends and enemies. You find out where your strengths and weaknesses are. You discover your personality. And this is kind of the last area for most of us who are not going to go off to college, that we're in a structured environment. And this is the place where we try to find out what we're going to do with our lives. So, how were your high school days? And I'm going to warn y'all, don't try to embellish anything, because, I know y'all, so don't try to put 10 in it, and 10 on it and say, I was macking them up, and no, I'm playing. Let's start with you, Lane.
I was very, very shy coming up. I didn't date or didn't have any girlfriends in high school. I didn't really start dating till after high school. I had my first girlfriend, I think I was 18. Oh. I don't know how deep we can go, but I lost my virginity, and I was 19, which I thought was kind of late for most of the guys, So didn't have a lot of dating experience. But once I got over that shyness, then it was on after that. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Briley.
I started dating early. I actually lost my virginity at the age of 13. It wasn't my idea. It was a joyful experience. I learned a lot. I'm still learning a lot.
Never stop learning. Never stop learning.
My high school experiences were very. I have very fond memories. Had quite a few girlfriends in high school. Quite a few experiences, and I learned a lot about myself.
Alan.
I was painfully shy.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, I love the girls though. I did. I love to look, and listen to everybody else's stories. And I didn't make up any. I was with this one, or I did that. I never talked about that because it just really didn't come up. Like, Alan, have you done this or have you done that? My virginity, I was almost 18. Right at 18, just knocking on the door, And I could have waited longer. It just kind of happened, But yeah, a little shy, But I love the girls.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't bring myself to do anything except for say hello.
Say hi.
Yeah.
So, did we all come from two-parent households?
I did.
Yes.
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 Okay. When it came to who you were going to be as a man, were you groomed to go out and sow your wild oats and hit as many women as you could, as many that would allow you to? Or were you groomed to become a husband, find a wife, have children, and create generational wealth and legacy?
Coming from a household with a mother and a father, for me, I was torn between the middle, because my mother wanted me to be this epitome of a man to a woman, and my father wanted me to be a boy.
Yeah.
So, trying to figure out which direction to go in was probably the hardest thing for me to figure out. Who I was.
Mr. Lane?
Repeat the question again.
Your grooming.
Okay.
And specifically your father. Did he teach you to go out there and sow your wild oats, or did he teach you that you should become a husband and find a wife and have children?
Well, I won't say he really emphasized that. I think he would have been okay. Like, as Kevin said, with the attaboy, do your thing, sow your wild oats. But his main thing is he wanted me to be careful. So I think my upbringing, my parents were married 35 years before my father passed. So I saw that, and I always desired. That's what it was. Yeah, we grew up in a time where, there was no shacking up. That was kind of frowned upon back in our era. The unique thing for me as well is I had 3 older sisters, and I look back at that. And when I was young, I hated having 3 sisters. They were kind of dominant. But as I grew older, I cherish it, because if I had had older brothers, they probably would have been, look, this is how you get the girls. This is how you get the panties. You do this. But I had sisters instead with, like, I never forget, I was young. I wasn't even dating. I was probably in elementary school. And my sister said, Lane, a woman has to feel secure in your love. And I'm looking at her like, huh? But I never forgot that, even becoming into my manhood. So I say that the difference for me being groomed by sisters, I got their point of view. So I looked at things differently. I never had that, I just want to go out and just hit this and hit that. I always, and basically, but they taught me to respect women at a young age. So they did a lot of grooming for me, even despite having both parents in the home.
Okay.
Yeah, mine was really split down the middle. My father was a really, really, really good-looking,
Yes, he
tall, huge man. From working out and and stuff, and everywhere he went, he got attention. I mean, it was crazy, and so it wasn't a big deal for him, so he didn't push that on us. It was more of holding your own as a respectful man. And from my mom, it was the same thing, being respectful towards women, being respectful towards everybody. From my father, it was being respectful towards everybody, but don't let anybody cross the line. And so he showed us how to hold up that image and that thing, So I think I got a really good balance between the two of them.
Okay, because we've done a previous broadcast where we said that for most of us, the parents dropped the ball. We weren't given the talk about how to interact with boys. The girls are taught to keep your legs closed, and we weren't taught to what we were supposed to look for in a man and how they were supposed to treat us. And they just threw us out there, and we had to go for what we knew. So I think that is part of the problem that we have right now, being able to relate to one another and being proud of our roles as a woman and being proud of our roles as a man. Yeah. So next question is, how old were you when you met your wife or your future wife to be, and where did you meet her at?
I was 31, and we met at the movies. I saw her in line, and she was holding a little girl, looked to be about a year old, and I thought the little girl was just beautiful. So that was the first thing that caught my eye, was a little girl standing in the snack bar line. And then my ex turned around, and I went, oh. And she was really just beautiful lady. And come to find out, it wasn't hers, it was her little niece, and we met there, and the rest
So
is
you
history.
were with somebody there?
Yeah, I was with a
woman?
buddy of mine.
Okay.
And actually, I was at home working on some music tracks, and he came over and said, man, you've been doing this for days. Get out of the house for a while. And we went to the movies, and that's how I met her.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm an avid skater. I still skate today. I met this young lady at the skating rink, and we did a couple skating, and it just turned into a sort of a romance.
And how old were you?
I was 24 years old.
Nice.
I was 32 when I met my wife. And I used to visit her place of business. She was a executive assistant. So one day we just happened to be in a situation where we were the only ones on the elevator. And we started communicating and exchanged numbers, and it just kind of took off from there.
That's interesting, because a lot of times in our community, I always tell women in my age bracket that most men in our community aren't ready for marriage until they hit like their late 20s or early 30s, right? And you guys are saying that you met your wives in your 30s. So interesting. Instead of the 20s, like some people expect, it was 30s for you guys.
Well, I will say this though. I've been married twice.
Oh, okay.
So I did get married when I was 25, but that marriage lasted about a year. And it was some infidelity that took place, not on my part. And long story short, I did not find out the child was not mine until after the baby was born. So it was a little heart-wrenching, shock, especially when you spend 3 years building a relationship and you think, okay, and I was numb. I just really couldn't believe it. I thought I really knew this person. So sometimes it's not the length of time. Sometimes people think how long you've been dating and then you go into a marriage. You can be with a person for a number of years and still not really know them. So it was a devastating time, but you pick up and you just have to move on and grow from it.
Yeah, that is something that we were kind of touching on earlier, that we meet each other's representatives. That is something that we kind of touched on earlier, where we were saying that we meet each other's representatives, and we don't know if it's going to take a week, a month, or a year for these people to come out and show their true colors. Right. Because people always say, were there any red flags? Didn't you know? Didn't you see? So you guys are kind of helping verify that people do put on airs and people do a lot of pretending. So how long were you guys dating when you found out that she was the one? Kevin?
Initially, probably 8 or 9 months, opened up my heart and all that. And still didn't really know the person, but, my image or my perception of love was just that, it was heartfelt, and, I really wanted it to work. So I went for it.
Alan?
What was the question again?
How long did it take you to find out that she was the one? You're showing your age, dude.
Yeah, I know. The senior moment. I was so engulfed in what he was saying because
It registered.
Good answer.
Well, no, it just had me thinking about some other things. So I had to come back. We were dating for about 7 years. And my son was born in 97. I met her in 91. So 6 years, I think, 7 years. And then we were married in 99. But when I knew she was the one, I wasn't really looking for that. But the relationship was really nice. And we were having a good time. But I was in a mode back then and I wasn't running around. I just didn't want to settle then. I was just a little nervous and unsure about it. But when my son was born, and I realized that she had been around all of these years and the relationship was working out pretty well, I said, I'm going to go on and do this. I think it's going to be all right. And I did love her, of course. And so that's when we got married.
Mr. Cooper?
To say that I could say I knew she was the one, it's hard for me now as I look back. No, seriously, because as I look back now, I did love her and I felt she loved me, but as I look back now and you have time to, sort your thoughts, I was more in love with the idea of being married than really evaluating this person and saying, is this person going to make a good quality mate? And I just figured I got my stuff together. I know how to play my role. But instead of really reviewing and saying, can that person play their role and we can work something together? And there were just a lot of things that I did not take a look at prior to making that step. So it's easy to point the finger and he said, she did, and what they did, but I have to blame myself. There's things that I should have been looking for, and as I look back, there were red flags, and I just didn't pay attention. I just chose to ignore them. But the flags were definitely there.
Wow.
So would you say that once we find each other visually attractive and we start lusting, our inner holes kick in, and we automatically assume, oh, the baby's here, and I'm sorry, we got to over there. We automatically think, because we're lusting after one another, that everything else is going to fall into place.
I'd say that's quite accurate.
Okay,
Quite accurate.
Did you discuss roles and future plans and what was going to be expected out of one another initially before you proposed to your future wives?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
I think there probably was a conversation in regards to, likes and dislikes, but I don't think there was anything that was really focused on in regards to, which direction our relationship was going to go in as far as like the blueprint. I don't think that was ever discussed.
And for me, I'm going to say that's a big fat no. I just have to be honest. It's discussions that should have been had, and I was so busy focused on what I knew I was capable and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to accomplish from this marriage that I didn't really have that serious conversation with her.
Did any of you have couples counseling before marriage?
I did, and I would say it was watered down. So if I was to come across or give anyone advice now, get counseling from someone that's going to challenge you. I'll give a quick example. I don't want to monopolize the time, but I was talking to this sister one time. She was telling me that before her pastor would marry anyone, he required them to come and bring their credit reports. And when she told me that, I'm like, what? He's tripping. That's a little personal. But then the more I thought about it,
It makes sense.
it goes back to communicating and being transparent. Now you're in a marriage, and I found myself in this situation. You're in a marriage, their credit becomes your credit. And I found that when I was trying to buy a house.
Yeah, you couldn't.
And then all of a sudden they're like, Mr. Cooper, we got to take her off. So fortunately, I was in a position where I could qualify by myself. But when I pondered on it, I was like, I asked the guy before I gave him the check to open escrow, if I change my mind, can I get my money back? He was a nice enough guy. So I sat on that for about a week, and I said, this is not a good move. Wow. And that's the way that went. But again, conversations that need to be had.
And ours was the opposite of both you guys. The conversations were had, the plans were outlined with enough detail to get the show on the road. But when you make these plans, are both people really in it?
Committed.
You might want to be in this particular boat or on this ship sailing that way, but the other person may not really want to be on this one. They may want to be on that one, but they're jumping on this one with you and making this compromise when it's not really what they want. And, I can't badmouth or anything. To this day, I'm not sure. I'm sure both of us were looking for happiness. But those plans and those things, when it was time to implement them, then things started falling apart.
So question, I'm going to follow back up with my counseling question. And the reason why I asked is because I'm part of a group for ladies, and the recommendation is couples counseling before marriage. So if you get engaged, they definitely want couples counseling. And there's a particular individual that they run tests. They do your background checks. They want you to come with your fears, your concerns, everything about that marriage, right? Wow. And if they feel that you guys are not compatible or not ready, they tell you, I don't think you're ready based on these reasons here. And you kind of agree to it. Like if they say you're not ready, then we're not ready. We wait and we figure out something else instead of just jumping into it. And it's not religious based. It's not like, because a lot of men that I've talked to have said that they feel like, church is biased. Pastors are biased more towards the women as opposed to, the potential husband. So I was just wondering, because a lot of people I know never had couples counseling. Wow. They're just, they just jump in.
Well, I think the counseling is changing now. When I had it, that wasn't, none of those kind of things were, brought up or detailed. It was very surface, like what Lane talked about. Your religious beliefs are equally yoked. Have you guys talked about who's going to handle the money? And basic things that usually, those minute things people do on their own.
Right.
Anyway, But to go into the detail like you're talking about is probably could probably be helpful, you know.
Okay.
So we're kind of old school. Did you gentlemen go and ask your future wife's parents for her hand in marriage?
I did not. I did not.
And why not?
I think it's a wonderful thing to do, but it just wasn't something I gave a lot of thought to.
Did she? And she
It
didn't
was,
require you to?
No.
Okay.
I thought the way I did the proposal was pretty nice. You know, it was kind of a public thing. Her parents weren't there, but in answer to your question, no, that never really popped in my mind that I needed to approach them.
Okay.
So I just didn't do that route.
Yeah, I didn't do it either. And I didn't feel it necessary to ask permission for something that I wanted from a parent or otherwise, guardian otherwise.
Okay.
I'm my own man.
That's right.
Her dad had passed, and I had developed a really nice relationship with her mom. So I went to her mom and I said, we're going out of town this weekend. And she went, yeah, she was telling me, and I showed her the ring. And she was like, oh, she got all excited. And so when are you going to ask? I said, well, sometime on the trip. And so I didn't even have to, ask for consent or anything like that. It was just kind of a mutual agreed upon thing. And it was kind of an exciting moment. So that's kind of how that went.
Okay. So speaking about rings, most women want to see their ring. They want to go out and get the ring. They want to tell you what kind of ring they want, how many carats they want, what kind of cut is it. Did you ask your future wives, or did you take them with you to get the ring, or was it a surprise?
Surprise for me.
It was a surprise.
Same surprise.
Surprise for you, Miss Allen?
Yeah.
So did you guys, they say you're supposed to spend, 2 months of your salary? 2 months of your salary. Did you spend 2 months of your salary?
Absolutely not. Keep it real.
I stole mine. No, I had a friend who was actually a jeweler, so he gave me a really nice deal on the ring.
Oh.
So got her a nice little engagement ring.
Lane.
I had a referral to a jeweler from a good friend, and I went there and picked it out. And my thing was, this is a big commitment. We can always upgrade the ring sometime. If this is a life commitment, we can always upgrade. So, no, but I didn't spend a couple of my paychecks on that, no.
Okay, so you proposed to this young lady. How long did it actually take for you to walk down the aisle? It took you 7 years to get to the proposal, right? And then how much longer after that did you guys get married?
I didn't want a long engagement.
Okay.
Because we had already had 7 years, and we had a son. He was, 2 years old at the time. So, he was a year old when I proposed to her. He was born in 97. I proposed in 98. And we got married the following year in June.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it took about 4 or 5 months for me after the proposal. Yeah.
It was 1 year. I would have preferred something kind of small, moderate, but being an only girl, she wanted to do this for her mom, and so it was a 1 year before we walked down the aisle with the planning and all that. Pretty big wedding. So
can we debunk the myth that it takes years and years and years for a man to figure out that he's going to marry a woman? Can we debunk that?
Yes,
we
can. Now, keep in mind we're a little probably old school.
Right.
Now the new school I can't answer for, but yeah.
But basically, a man's nature, once he knows that he wants you, he's going to do everything that he can to put you on lock. Am I correct?
I honestly think so.
Okay.
In my situation, it was me. She would have probably been willing to do it within that first year. And within that first year and a half, I knew that she was a nice lady and, I had somebody special. I think it was just me trying to settle in and rid myself of all the things that I had seen and experienced, and wanting to make sure that I wasn't going to get them. And you can't do that.
Were you
really
still
can't.
looking? through those years before you proposed?
No. Well, no, yeah, I was looking.
Yeah, that's
But I wasn't out there running around.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Still have eyes, right?
So, like, after the baby was born was when you finally said, all right, we can get married now? Or did you have an inkling before?
Before.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometime before, I said, you know what, I need to go on and do this. And then I started thinking, I think I want to get a house first. And then, surprise her with the house and this. And that wasn't really working out as planned. So I had to bring her in so we could kind of work things together, which we did. But, I knew before my son was born. And then once he was born, there was no way I was going to let another man raise my child. Just wasn't going to happen. And not knocking anybody that does.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that, it's too many horror stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I would be a good father. I was confident with that.
So here's the big question. I don't know if you guys are aware of what's going on these YouTube streets that's kind of trickling down into main society. It's called the high value man.
Oh, God.
They are telling women that leave the dusties alone. Don't mess with the Pookies and Ray Rays. Don't talk to thugs. And you should be looking for a man who is high value. Not high moral standards. Not high character. You should be making 6 figures to be able to propose to me. So my question is, gentlemen, were you high value, high earning 6-figure men before you got married?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Hi,
High
what's your
value.
name?
My mentality was high value.
He straightened that out.
My pockets didn't match my mindset.
They were
but,
catching up, though, Kevin.
Yeah.
I was supposed to live like you know what I mean?
Make it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it.
That's right.
It's so funny because, like I said, with the upbringing that I had, I felt high value the whole time.
Yeah.
But I had to come out of that me stage in order to settle down. There was too much me and Alan and what Alan sees and what Alan wants and what Alan doesn't want to see or what he doesn't want to experience. And I wasn't getting it, but I was kind of shooting myself in the foot a little bit. So, but no, there was no high value monetary wise, but I think I brought, in character something to the table. A lot to the table.
I'm totally agree with that. I've always seen myself as high value, regardless of the number in terms of moral character and what I can bring to the table. So wink, wink. I'm selling myself out there, but I still consider myself high value, and I won't allow anybody to put a label or make me feel any less than. So, 6 figures doesn't make you a quality husband.
True.
And really quick, the people that are doing that, they are devaluing. They're devaluing us. They may not see it that way, but you're putting an emphasis on something that in the interim means nothing when you're not happy in that house.
Right.
Big house, bunch of cars, and people can't stand each other.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's not about how much you make; it's about how much you spend.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, money does not make you happy.
So,
She's getting ready to come with the
Uh-oh,
heat
the
now.
big one.
When she rubs her hands together like that.
This is Mona's hot seat, just so y'all know.
take us to the day when you guys have been married for a long time. You're blissfully happy. You think everything is going good, and your wife comes to you and says, I want a divorce. Back up. Before that question. You're getting ready to get married. Do men dream of their wedding day? Do you have anxieties? Do you like, I can't do this?
There's thoughts. I don't know about dreaming, but there's always thoughts about what you're embarking upon and the success that you're going to have. Going into any relationship as a young man or woman is a blind act because we all have our own visions of what marriage is supposed to be to us. Yeah. Of what we've experienced from watching our parents or people that we know that are involved. So.
Lane?
Did I have some anxiety? Now, again, I've been married twice. Mm-hmm. So my first marriage, she wanted to have the big wedding. I was, okay, I'm good. I want to be well-groomed. I want to be work out, look good in my tux, Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was some excitement there. Going around the second time, big wedding wasn't as important to me. I was more focused on getting started right and, making sure I had things handled. Again, it was something that she wanted, so I went with it. Nothing wrong with big weddings, but I'm not worried about trying to impress people. Did you see how beautiful the wedding was? You can have a big, beautiful wedding and have a horrible marriage. Yep. I was more focused on I want to have a good marriage versus trying to impress people, and then you got the freeloaders and people that wasn't even invited to the wedding showing up and eating. So that kind of thing. But yeah, there was some anxiety.
No.
No anxiety?
No. And probably because of the longevity.
Okay.
I would probably be, saying the same thing my two buddies here were, but after 6 years and a child, so many Christmases together, seeing how she was with the baby, I was pretty comfortable.
Okay. Yeah. So let's go back. Take us to the place, the time, when your wives came and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to divorce you.
For me, it was more so of a mutual understanding that we should have some time apart. Mm-hmm. Divorce hadn't been spoke upon. In my situation, I was pretty much clobbered over the head with a divorce. I came home to an empty house. Mm. And so there was no other alternative for me but divorce.
It's kind of bad.
Yeah, that was the clue.
It's over.
It's okay. It's over. All right. Let me get on board. So, and with everything I've been through, I still believe that marriage is a great institution. You just have to be careful who you make that commitment to.
Right. No one ever came to me. I was the one who wanted the divorce.
I'm talking about hey.
And this was no. I didn't take it that way. I didn't take it that way.
No, because normally women initiate divorces.
But this was not something that came overnight. Mm-hmm. It was after contemplation over years, actually. In hindsight, I probably should have been gone the first year, but the children started coming, and what kept me is the children. And I grew up, as we said, with both my parents in the home, and I wanted to mimic what I knew as a family. So you just kept trying to make it work, The kids, I need to be here for my kids. The thought of me not being in the home with my kids every day was just, that would kill me. But it got to the point where I said, I'm either going to have a stroke or a heart attack with this marriage. It's not going to be good for my health. So that's when I approached and said, I'm not happy. I don't love you like that anymore. So that's how that went.
Mr. Allen?
Yeah. It was pretty mutual, I think. But, marriages end long before anybody says anything. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're usually over before the words are spoken.
Yeah, because I was going to follow up that question with asking, were there any warning signs? Did you know it was coming?
Yeah, there's tons of them, and early on.
We'll talk.
Yeah, tons of them early on, and most of them were not apparent before the marriage. So that old adage of, you know, did you see any red flags isn't always true. You know?
I agree with that.
Guys that are our age, have experience like we do, we'll be able to, more so than a young guy, we'll be able to see more things because we know what to look for. But even at our age and with our experience, we can still miss some things simply because some people are really good at not showing certain colors in their little Crayola box, you know. And, you know, and then sometimes it's us too, you know. There were a lot of things and ways that I had before the marriage. And I think that she was exhausted of those things by the time we got into it. So it made the marriage harder. So it wasn't all her, you know. But, yeah, it was mutual. By the time we got ready to do it, it was a mutual thing.
So, I want to talk about the children. How do you tell your children that mommy and daddy are not going to be together anymore?
It's a conversation that's definitely needed, and you know, you just have to put it out there in the best context that you can for your kids to understand and step back. You know, I found out through conversation that my daughter was like really against me, you know, getting together with somebody else, and she had mentioned that she would rip the dress off.
Damn.
You know what I mean? And so I heard her when she said it. But you know, it's a part of life.
Yeah.
So I'm not married today, so you know, I didn't put my daughter in a situation for her to snatch her dress off.
Like I said, I thought about it for quite some time. And again, I stayed in the marriage longer than I should have because of the children. But when I got to the point, I said, if I'm going to do this, it would probably be better. As I said, I have 2 boys and a girl. They were young. My oldest was 9 or 8. I had 8, 4, and 2.5. So I said, if I'm going to do this, it's probably would be less detrimental now that they're young versus if they were older. It would be probably a little harder for them to accept. So it was a rough decision, but I said, if I'm going to do this, I need to do this now. Like, my daughter's a freshman in college now. She was 2.5 years old. And I remember speaking to her one time. I said, do you remember when Daddy lived in the house? And she was like, I don't remember. And I was shocked. So, yeah, it was detrimental, you know. Did it affect him? Yes, I'm sure it did. I think it was hardest on my oldest son because he was, you know, of course, the oldest. But I think they've done well. They adjusted, you know. As you see, I have my son with me. And we had the visitation agreement, and I never stopped that. I said, when they get to an age where they feel like they don't want to come, and this is my road dog here. So as long as he wants to come with Dad on the weekend, he's more than welcome. But, yeah, that was the biggest adjustment.
It was very difficult. You know, the relationship that I had with my kids is very, very, very close. And, you know, on the floor with them, playing, asking my daughter when she was a little girl, can I help paint her nails? You know, she'd be in her room with her thing down and say, let me try, baby. She would go, no. And finally she let me do it one time and actually did pretty good. Yeah, and she was like, oh. And just, you know, all the things, the little things, the voices, you know, and all of a sudden you have to tell them that things are changing. And my parents were together until my dad passed in 2005, so I'd never been in a broken home before. So it was difficult to, first of all, the ugliness that they saw leading up to it. It was just way too much for any children. And and then just letting them know that, hey, this is what we're going to do. They were all just crushed, you know.
Yeah.
And so that was really hard on me too.
So would you say that it's more devastating for the girls, or it's more devastating for the boys, or is it kind of like equal?
I would say it's equal. I don't think I could see one gender over another. It's, you know, just my daughter was so young, so I don't think it affected her too much. She just, I think the only thing she saw is that I'm at mommy's house and I'm going to daddy's house this weekend. The older kids, yeah, they my oldest even voiced it. You know, he wanted mom and dad back together. You know, and it's painful to hear that, but when you how do you say that just can't happen? You know, so. But kids are resilient. They adjust. You just both have to work together to not bash each other and just show the children a lot of love. That helps them heal a great deal.
You have a question, Neisha?
I do. So I'm on Clubhouse, and so I was in a room where we were discussing fatherless daughters and fatherless sons, like on 2 different days, right? And so one of the things that the fathers were saying when they had to adjust was, well, for 2 things. The first thing was when they decided that the marriage was over, the hardest transition that they had to deal with was instead of seeing their children every day, they had to see them either every other weekend or once a month, right? So my first question for you guys was that a hard transition for you?
I barely survived that. Yeah. And, you know, Lane and I are really close friends, and he can tell you, that was very difficult. You know, you get accustomed to one of the kids running to the room, Dad, there's something on my wall. And Dad goes in there and kills the spider. You know, Dad, there's a strange sound outside. Dad, can you fix my screen? Dad, what's this word? Dad, can you help me with your homework? Dad, can you take me to play? You know, this is an everyday thing. And if, you know, your listeners, if there's one thing, and I'm sure Kevin and Lane are going to have some key things too, but there's one thing that the ladies should know that are out here listening, is that some of us men go through a lot of pain when we're separated from our kids.
Most definitely.
And I think that not all, but a lot of women in this society have been taught to be immune to having that empathy for us. It's just non-existent. And we feel that pain. We feel that loss. We want to see them at Christmas time, not just on Christmas Day. You know, we want to set up decorations with them. You know, I want to hear them laughing in the room. I want to hear about the adventures at school that day, you know, not a week later when it's been changed or you've told the story 1,000 times. Sometimes Dad wants to be the one to get the story about the bully or about, Dad, I saw this girl. Should I say something? You know, and all of the firsts
Right.
Yeah.
we miss.
Yeah.
And when a person is so selfish that they don't care, that's heartbreaking. But it certainly has a lasting effect on on the man and subsequently on the children as well. You know.
So hold that thought, gentlemen. Hold that thought, gentlemen. What we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk about this a little bit more, because I still have a few questions.
Okay.
Break time.
Okay.
All right.